What do you feel has been the impact since you guys launched the documentary Thrive and the Thrive movement itself, trying to get people active beyond just watching the documentary? How has that response been for you?
Well, we've been really heartwarmed by the whole thing because we boldly set out to change the global conversation. And I'm happy to report that there's over 23 million documented views, and more than 1 million people a month are seeing it in 27 languages. And that's all great. It's continuing to go viral around the world, and it's helping to wake people up to what's going on. But most important for us, it's motivating people and giving them some clarity about how to organize effective solutions. And as we've traveled to cities all over the world, we have met people who've spontaneously started Thrive Solutions groups. And now I think probably this week we'll cross 1,000 groups in 96 countries, taking on over 200 different issues. And that's all decentralized. The only common denominator is that it's people who are awake, who want to get something really changed, and are doing no violations in their activities. So no new taxes, no coercion in any way. It's all based on principles rather than politics, on integrity and on non-violation. So all that's decentralized. So I think it really helps. Like the work that you guys do, it's spreading the word, and it's unstoppable because it's decentralized.
So coming from a corporate background, what has the response been for you as well to step into this movement, so to speak, this liberty awareness awakening movement? Coming from a background of wealth and understanding some of the things there, has it given you a different perspective? You feel a more enlightened perspective?
Well, interestingly enough, I was woken up to the banking scheme, to conspiracy, and to the whole liberty perspective by my own son, who was 28 at the time. And he goes, "Dad, I know you're making this movie, and before you get it out, we need to really talk about some critical things." So we sat down literally for months and had these amazing conversations, and I realized that he had some absolutely key pieces that I was missing. So to me, that's an essential part of people waking up, to realize that we're not living in a capitalist society. When people say, "Oh, see, capitalism doesn't work along with socialism and communism and so forth," we have not had a true free market. If my daughter puts together, $20 and buys some supplies and sets up a lemonade stand, that's capitalism, as long as the exchanges are voluntary. And so in my studies, with things like there's an Economic Freedom of the World report that comes out every year that shows consistently, year to year, the more free any country is in terms of their politics and their economy, the safer they are, the more secure they are, the more prosperous they are, and the happier they are. So my family background, my great-grandfather started Procter Gamble. So and he was a very honest businessman who ran a successful company. Now, in the meantime, now it's grown to something huge that none of the family members involved. It's become a multinational Fortune 500 company. It had Dick Cheney on the board in the 1990s. So it's no longer something that I'm proud of. I don't use any of their products. It's a perfect example of how the beginning in a true free market then got co-opted by the state intervention and turned into part of this monolithic military-industrial complex. So I think the lessons are all there, and through real freedom, we can hold the people accountable so that they can't hide behind the corporate liability clause. They can't be protected by the government to do all this illegal stuff that the government tells us that they're going to protect us from. So it's been a real education for me.
Did you wait your whole life to have a spiritual awakening and find out you're an anarchist?
Well, I've always had a real instinct for justice. And for a long time, I grew up in a Republican community, and then I moved to California and began to think that the progressive liberal politics were the most compassionate thing because they were taking care of the disadvantaged and so forth. And then I realized, no, that's part of the scam. They do enough of that to fool us into giving them the money, giving them the power, and then they go off and subsidize the Fortune 500, they subsidize GMOs, they wage foreign wars of aggression, and I realized, okay, I got fooled again. So I think what we're doing here at this festival, trying to open up the two-party system, is a significant step because independents need to have enough clout that they can run. We need as enlightened leadership as possible while there is any state at all. And personally, I'm for no state at all. And so I'm all about the transition from here to there. But we need to be realistic that there's going to need to be a transition.
Okay, I agree with that. So one last question. In the making of the film and since the release of the film, you touch on everything from that, like we're talking about today: GMOs, the Federal Reserve, the spying, the police state, surveillance state, all these issues. And you had a range of guests, including Amy Goodman, Deepak Chopra, different people talking, who later issued a disassociation letter saying, they didn't agree with, or they weren't. This wasn't the movie they signed up for, I think were the exact words that they all signed on. In your mind, why do you think that happened? Were they sold a false premise, or from your side, or were they afraid to back the controversial topics that you touch on?
No, we have word for word exactly what we told them and sent them in the invitation. This was about other things. We're pretty good at following the money, so we followed it, and the initial incentive came from someone high up in the Democratic Party that was afraid that Thrive was going to empower Ron Paul when he was running against Obama. And so she knew, this particular person knew several people who had been in the film. So she contacts them 6 months after the film came out. They had all told us how wonderful the film was and all that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden they're creating this letter completely misrepresenting the film and actually not objecting to anything in the film. They tried to do guilt by association with some of the people in the film who are really aware of conspiracy and free energy and extraterrestrial issues and so forth.
Distance themselves from.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, in my assessment, it was fear and ignorance. Even John Robbins, the guy who wrote the letter, said, I agree with 95% of the film, but then the things that he didn't agree with are the things that he didn't understand. And instead of coming to us and actually talking about, well, what's this conspiracy deal, or what's this free energy, or do you think ETs are really real? And what the hell is this liberty perspective? These were all progressive Democrats, self-proclaimed liberal thought leaders. And so there was a political agenda underneath that unfortunately wasn't really done in a responsible way. And so now, they've come out with articles and debunking sites and so forth. Now you go to any of those sites and well over 80%, oftentimes over 90% of the comments to them are saying, wake up, you guys don't understand what's going on. Thrive is actually talking about stuff you need to figure out about. And they recommend books and videos and websites and so forth. The public is more awake than people who were trying to protect their reputation and their book sales. Let's put it that way.
The public is more aware than our supposed leaders.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it Amy Goodman?
No.
No?
She
Okay,
wasn't
cool.
the instigator.
Okay, just curious. I know you probably wouldn't say, but all right, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Where can everybody find more information about?
Go to thrivemovement.com, and especially you can see the movie for free on there. The Thrive, What on Earth Will It Take? But especially go to the Solutions Hub, because that's where you'll see all these groups all over the world who are taking on these 200 issues and finding each other through our internet hub, and then sharing best practices, lawsuits, petitions, artwork, fundraising techniques, whatever it is, so that everybody doesn't have to recreate the wheel.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity, and congratulations on your work. You guys are some of my heroes.
Nobody else is showing the IDs.
Yeah, you got to show ID.
Sir, you're grabbing me?
And that's the problem. The decision-making matrix. Exercise your right to alter or abolish the government.